So Topco focuses on winning solutions. All right, so we have 10 programs. So we're going to talk mainly about GM and HBC today, but we also have a whole center store grocery organization. We have pharmacy and dairy also within the center store. And then our perishable programs, we have a fresh meat, a branded meat, and a produce department as well. Then we have a national brand component, and our national brand, so we're talking about private label, but we do some national brand aggregation as well. So we have a team that actually goes out and works with the major CPGs on getting some special buys for our membership, working with Kraft, Pepsi, Conagra. And then we have a non-for-resale division, which is actually based out here in the Boston area. And so they're in Quincy, and we call them Top Source because we have to put top at the front of everything at Topco. So our shared goals of Topco and our member owners is to drive down product costs. That is really how we were founded, and that is what we focus on. We also want to drive up our members and customers' private label penetration, helps them maximize their margins. And then we want to maximize differentiation from large national competitors. So what do I mean by that? So if you look at the kitchen programs, everybody's heard of Bradshaw, everybody's heard of Lifetime. The guy across the street probably has it from you. So how do you compete with that? You end up competing on price. What we try to do is provide you with a solution that the guy across the street doesn't have to help you differentiate on unique items, on quality, rather than just on price, because price is a game that's pretty easy to lose. So in terms of our national competitors, as you can see, this is retail data from 2012. Topco is $127 billion in sales. So that is all of our members aggregated together. We're second to Walmart. So not quite as big as Walmart yet, but we're still bigger than Kroger, Safeway, and Super Value. So some of your major competitors in your marketplace. And that's the type of volume that we're able to drive as a cooperative. What we hope to do for our members is increase sales through compelling solutions. So we focus really on the solution, not just adding the new kitchen gadget or the new mop or broom. We look at what's a full solution for you. We also help you look at how to maximize your margins. So GM and HBC are more margin-rich type of programs, and we look to be able to maximize your margins within those categories. Just a little tidbit about Walmart. So Walmart's food sales, which I'm sure are killing a lot of you out there, they fund that through general merchandise and HBC margins. So they actually take a loss on food and they make it up in GM and HBC and within their private labels. So if you really want to take a bite out of what Walmart's doing, buying GM, HBC, doing private label programs is what takes that bite out of Walmart. We also create differentiated sets of products to help you compete. So that's my Bradshaw example, just making sure you have something out there that's different and not what everybody else has. It also enhances leverage with the CPGs. So our goal is also to help you get those additional dollars from the CPGs because we put pressure on them so they have to come to the table more for you to help promote your products in the marketplace. And to build customer loyalty. So we want your customers to identify the brands with your store and the products with your store so that they come back and they go to Marsh and they say, this is what I can get when I go to Marsh. This is what I can get when I go to Big Y. So that they want to come back to your store rather than go to the Walmart down the street. So Topco provides a full range of business capabilities as well, and I'll just go through these really quickly. We do vendor and product sourcing. We have brand and product innovation. We have a creative services and packaging team. And then we also have a Topco label management program, which really means we buy a lot of the packaging and we produce it. And then we have a world-class quality assurance program with a large QA lab in Elk Grove Village, which is in our headquarters. So innovation at Topco. Perfect the expected, inspire with the unexpected. So in terms of innovation with Topco, we really look on a product basis to be a fast follower plus. On packaging, we look at Recart and Flexo. On process, we really focus on speed to market. And we have at Topco, within our membership, an Innovation MAC, so that's a member advisory committee, to actually work with us and help guide some of that innovation that we do at Topco. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tony Harrington to talk about store brands. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Laurie. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about Topco's store brand programs. You know, this is really like a golden age to be in the store brand industry. What we've seen in the last 5 years, as far as the importance of store brand to retailers and the impact that it has on consumers, has been really exciting. And for us working in that field, it's really rewarding for us. You know, store brand can be so important for our retailer members at Topco. It helps drive their margin. In HPC, the area that I work most closely in, about half of the margin in the HPC department for many retailers will come from the private brand. So it's great to be contributing to that important part of our members, retailers' profits in their stores. It also helps them increase their sales. It's a way to actually drive their sales. Promoting store brand can be a way to significantly impact in-store sales in HPC. It also creates customer loyalty. Customers, when they try a private label product, they significantly have a great experience, and they'll continue to purchase that private label product. Where we offer some unique solutions that our retailers can provide to their consumers, it can provide a way to differentiate yourself a little bit, a way to provide something that your customers really desire that they get from you. It can help it drive an exclusive assortment. So incorporating store brand carefully into your branded assortment allows you to tailor a mix of products specifically to your customers. And then it also allows you to create leverage with CPG companies. That can be really important. We compete every day with CPG companies to earn the sales of the products. When they see the growth and the success that store brands had in the last 5 years, those companies become much more aggressive and much more competitive. They offer much more compelling deals and support to retailers in the presence of a great private label program. You know, really, that's the really great spot for private label. When it works in conjunction in the store with the branded program, the branded programs can drive foot traffic into the store. They can bring the customers in, and if you have great private label solutions at the shelf, the customer will typically choose the private label. So we work together with the brands. We bring the profit, they bring the foot traffic. So really, it's great to be working in that part of the retail environment right now. There's some great elements of private label growth. It's been a tremendous 5 years. We've seen private label growth trending up in each of the last 5 years. In 2011, growth was 7%. In 2012, the growth in private label was 5%. And this year, I would predict that we'll end up this year at over $100 billion in private label sales. That's just tremendous growth for us to continue to be experiencing. A couple really innovative things that are happening with private label. 30% of all new items that were introduced last year were private label items. That tells a great story for the innovation and the focus that retailers across the country are placing on their private brand programs. And by 2025, it's expected that half of all sales will be in private label products. So it's hard to overplay the importance that they mean to the retail environment. In the last 4 years in the food channel, private label penetration has increased in each of those last years. And in 2012, we are at 19%. So when you think about that, you think nearly 20% of all sales are occurring in private brand. But you know, in many of the categories that we operate, almost half the margin in those categories is coming from private brand. So that correlation is really important. We want to drive that share up because it's driving up the profit in those categories. There are many retailers today who are earning over a 25% share in their categories in private label. And some retailers, you know, some international retailers, we always read about what happens in Europe and maybe in Canada. And even in Trader Joe's here in the United States, they're achieving these huge private label shares. And so we kind of have that goal for retailers that are working with our brands too. We want to drive that private label share and penetration because it brings the profit into the category. And the way that we think can be most impactful in achieving that is what we like to think of as the moment of truth. You know, over 70% of shoppers are making the decision to buy a store brand at the point of purchase. So they're standing in a store, they're making the decision on what brand to purchase, and they do it in less than 3 seconds. 70% of shoppers that are visiting stores are responding to end caps. So the space that you're merchandising in the stores and the things that you're utilizing to drive sales, that works. You know, over 2/3 of consumers are responding to that information. Over 60% are responding to off-shelf displays. So all of these displays and everything that we see out here on display at the Imperial show here, these are driving and reaching your consumers. Over 60% of them will respond to those. And then almost 60% are responding to shelf signage. So it's really that in-store moment, what we like to think of, that moment of truth in store when you can really capture that customer and bring them to your own brand. Now, what would branded companies do if they held that moment of truth? You know, that's our competitive advantage with branded companies. If branded companies owned the space, they would market differently. And we have a few examples of that. So when you go into an Apple store, there's never any confusion about whether you're buying an Apple computer or a Dell computer. You're buying their brand. When you go into a Nike store, you're never going to have to make that decision as to, gosh, am I going to buy a New Balance today or am I going to buy Nike? You know, when the retailer controls that moment of truth, they are controlling that message and they are communicating directly to that consumer. And we have the opportunity to do that too. Maybe not at the level that they do, but we can do that. There are other examples in the food industry. Trader Joe's is a great example that's achieving a 90% share of private label, and they are controlling that message to their consumer. They're controlling that assortment, and the consumer is almost always making the decision to buy their brands. That's so important because 85% of the consumers who try a private label have a great experience and will plan to continue to purchase that private brand. So it's getting them to use those products. We want to use all the tools in our tool belt to get them to try those private label products because once they do, they'll continue to purchase them. So now Laurie's going to tell us a little bit about some of the GM products we have for the show.
All right, thanks, Tony. So I think actually Tony brings up a really great point about Trader Joe's. And so let's talk about Trader Joe's for a second. Let's talk about private label. So Trader Joe's made private label initially fun. So I still remember when the Trader Joe's first opened by my parents' house. And my mother came home and said, oh, there's this new gourmet food store that has all of these really unique import brands. And it was all private label. And with the downturn in economy, we've seen that a lot of our consumers have moved into private label, and that's why they continue to stay. It used to be private label was considered generic, but now private label is as good, if not better, than most of the actual national brands. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about GM. So for the past year and a half, I've been the GM director at Topco, and so it's sort of my personal favorite area. So this is sort of a sampling of our GM portfolio. Does anybody in here specialize in GM? Anybody? Are we all HPC? All right.
Just not raising the hands.
Okay. I know GM tends to be the stepchild. And that's why we kind of got to stick together. So this is sort of just a sampling of the GM portfolio. We have some different brands. We have our domestic, we have our academics, Charking and Pause. And this sort of gives you an assortment of what we have at Topco. So on the domestic side, we have bakeware, cookware, kitchen gadgets, coffee filters, food storage, lighters, rubber gloves, sponges, tape, water filtration. Academics right now is really our school supply line and our stationery line. We are actually moving that forward to domestics in the near future. And we have batteries and flashlights within domestics now. Electrical is going to be moving in shortly, and so will light bulbs. And then I know charcoal is generally a grocery category, not a food category, but we have charcoal and fire logs in our char tank. And then we have our Pause Premium line for pets. stores all over the country. We have every type of demographic. And in your stores, a lot of times you have, based on where your store is, a certain type of demographic. So we try to make sure that we have a solution for every part of the store. So we believe that it's a best practice to have that good and better, or that better best, depending on your marketplace. We also have store brands that complement or replace national brands. So in general merchandise, it can kind of go either way. You can have the store, you can have a national brand, you can have a private brand. At the end of the day, on a lot of general merchandise categories, there isn't a really strong national brand presence like there is on food. We also focus on high quality product. So when we come out with products, we really look in the private label to kind of go that cut above, because we don't have all of the national brand campaign marketing. We can actually add some of that cost back into quality, so that you can actually compete on quality as well as price. We focus also on product and packaging innovation, which I mentioned at the beginning. So we actually have a creative team, and we try to put brands out there that actually look like brands. Merchandising activity. In GM specifically, and probably also in HBC, you have to market it. You have to put the displays on the floor. You've got to have it all over your store. GM is actually a higher register ring than, say, canned corn. So you've got to really give your customer the reason to buy general merchandise, the reason to pick it up, to put it in their basket, and to add that $20, $30 to their register ring in some cases. We also have advantaged supply chain. We've actually switched around a lot of our sourcing model, and we're working with some great partners to actually be able to get product out on a more regular basis. And we do some national brand aggregation. So when we do private label programs in GM, we also combine them with a national brand. An example of that is we have actually our battery program, and this is produced for us by PowerMax in California, who also produces AC Delco. And so both are available and both can ship together, and that way you can actually have that full solution on both the branded and the private label. So this is kind of the own brand challenge. I love this slide. It's got some fun stars. They want to pop up. So what this slide is really supposed to do, you can see my little stars are popping. This is private label in GM and own brand. It's across the store. So it's not just going to be in one place. You're not going to merchandise it in one little area together. The key to doing really well, and especially in general merchandise, is to put it everywhere. Because if you have a special GM area where you actually put all your GM, you have to give your customer a reason to go down that aisle. If they're not looking for GM, they're not going to go down that aisle. So it's key to really integrate it in with your center store aisles, put it in perishable. For example, take a kitchen gadget rack, put it in perishable, and as people are picking up produce, they'll pick up your kitchen gadgets with it. That's how we feel really that general merchandise succeeds in the marketplace, is if it's everywhere in the store, if it's in people's faces, they see a shipper there, they might pick it up, they might try it. Another key way to get people to buy GM is to promote it. So continuity programs, promotions, get people to try the product, and when they realize that the product they're getting in your grocery stores is probably better than some of what they could get at like a Crate and Barrel, they'll come back to your grocery stores because your pricing is so much better. We also believe that in terms of branding, you need to have this consistent branding across your store so that the consumer actually gives you credit for having that brand. We talked about this earlier, so that they know that they come to your store, they get that brand, and they get that level of quality all the time. So, general merchandise branding. I've got a couple examples for you of what we've been doing. So, domestics. You guys saw it up there earlier. Domestics for the place we call home. That's at least what my creative team tells me all the time. So, back when I started in GM, we had a bunch of different labels. We had domestics, academics, electrics, easyclicks. We called them the X brands. And when I got in, I was very confused by these X brands. So they were sort of specific to certain categories, but not other categories. They were in small little areas in the store. So as a consumer, you would never know, you would never connect the brands together, and you would never connect them to the store. And we got a lot of feedback that really academics, electrics, EasyClicks especially because that's the portable camera, that those brands don't actually resonate with any of our members or any of their consumers. So we made the decision to actually consolidate our brands, at least on the housewares and cleaning and electrical side, and consolidate it all into domestics, which we all felt was actually a good brand for the store. And so what we're doing, this remote really does not like me. We've created some brand positioning on it. So in terms of brand, it's for consumers who are looking for ways to simplify their home maintenance. This brand really provides you with an affordable way to outfit your home. We focus on quality, variety, trust, and it's affordable and it's convenient. It's right at your grocery store. It's an NBE, so we always are looking to match or exceed the NBE, so the national brand equivalent, and we focus on high-low pricing, and in general, on shelf every day, we're 20% lower than any national brand competitor. And so in terms of high-low pricing, as I said, we're looking to promote all the time. We're putting together calendars all the time to try to promote these brands in the marketplace and give your consumers a reason to buy them. So this is the brand strategy. It's an all-member brand, so we're able to offer it across our portfolio. And it focuses now on GM and grocery non-food. So before, grocery non-food, which is going to be your fabric softeners, your detergents, that all was in alternate labels. And so when we made the decision in general merchandise to go all into domestics, our grocery non-foods counterparts jumped in with us, so that across the store in grocery non-foods and in GM, we have one consistent power brand that your consumers can identify across the store. In addition to that, we have Spanish translations on there, so for the Hispanic markets, they're able to understand the packaging. And we have 13 categories with a cohesive appearance across all of those different categories. And so this is just sort of a SKU breakdown of what domestics has. We have over 700 SKUs in domestics. Some of the biggest are what's going to go into stationery. We have a lot in housewares and furnishings, electrical, I'm sure you can't read this all, so I'm going to read it to you. Cleaning aids, laundry, social expressions. So social expressions is really going to be your sort of like upper end stationery product for the holidays. Cigarettes and lighters, which is really lighters. Batteries and flashlights, plates, cups, miscellaneous paper, electronics and tapes, photo supplies, and sanitary tissue products. So you're going to see it across toilet paper, all the way up through kitchen gadgets. And so here at the show, we actually have some displays available for you. These don't actually project as nicely as I would have hoped, but these are a couple of our domestics bakeware displays. And that's some of our old packaging, but we have new packaging available. So as we transition everything into the new look for domestics, we're actually coming out with all new product and all new packaging to make sure that it's consistent across the store. You've also probably seen our domestics cleaning. So in the Imperial Innovation Center, we have a big 4-foot display of all of the mops and brooms that we came out with in the past year. And now we have some displays available for the holiday season for you for those as well. And then we have the domestics battery displays. So batteries actually used to be done in electrics, and we got a lot of feedback that people didn't like the packaging and didn't like them. So we've actually come out with them in domestics. And we do have a couple shippers available. This is one of them. The shippers actually didn't, the corrugate didn't make it here, but they will still be available to you. So they will be the domestics battery shippers. This one is sort of more of a multi-pack. And then we have sort of like this is also a great BOGO opportunity, this one. We have 72 of the AA 20 count and 36 of the AAA So the next brand I'm going to talk about is Paws Premium. So pet is a very large growing segment in every channel, within pet specialty, within grocery, within mass. And so we've actually gone from pet owners to pet parents. We have found that people will they'll starve themselves before they starve their dog. So you really want to create a warm brand that a pet parent really feels comfortable buying, just like you would with a baby. So what we do is we mix and match to create different size sets based off of our market knowledge. We have this whole Paws Premium brand. It goes across all toys, accessories, rawhide, pet food, and excitingly enough, and we have a slide on it, but I'm going to preempt myself, we're actually going to be coming out with a pet health program. So one of the areas that we have found is growing is pet health. It used to be you take your dog to the vet, and you'd come out spending like $300 to $500 on all of this medication that you didn't expect to be buying. And the only place you could buy it was at the veterinarian's office. Well, that's actually moving to retail, and that's very new. So we're doing the frontline equivalents, the HeartGuard equivalents, and we're going to be able to offer that in Paws. And actually, Topco members will be some of the first to be able to take advantage of the private label product, because in the grocery industry, we're the first to be able to come out with private label pet health. This is an example of one of our 4-foot sets with no rawhide. So as you can see, Paws is actually a full solution category. And this is our 8-foot set with no rawhide. One of the exciting things we've been doing with Paws is we've actually completely redesigned the entire line. So a lot of you might remember from the Innovation Center, you see the blue cards and you see the multiple color cards. We've actually gone to a consistent look, and we have the black backing, and we have the illustrations at the top. And so in October-November timeframe, we have 160 new toy and accessory items coming out. We're really excited about it, all in the new packaging. And we'll be repackaging all of our rawhide. We've already repackaged most of our pet food, and we will be packaging our pet health in this same look as well. These are some of the floor displays available. You can see them right out in the front. So we were excited to be able to get these here for the show. And then, as I said, I preempted myself. This is the pet health. So this is an example of how our pet health is going to look. So we're going to have the flea and tick squeeze on. We're going to have the Fipronil. We're going to have the shampoos. It's all going to be available in Paws around Q1, Q2 of next year. This is our rawhide packaging that we're going to be coming out with. Sort of a look-see, since it's not actually out in the marketplace yet. This is our marketing material. So this is the front and the back. And we print these for, or our members print them for themselves, depending, with their logo on them to hand out to all of their consumers, so their consumers have information on what this brand really is and what's available with it. We're also up on Facebook. We have a Facebook page for Paws, so we sort of get the digital assets going with that as well. And we have a lot of fans. And it's an exciting way to get people to really talk about Paws. In fact, we get so many calls about where people can find Paws. And especially where I'm from in Illinois, there are hardly any stores that have it. It's been challenging to get consumers out to the right stores that have it. We also provide a lot of marketing material available with Paws. So we have the hanging posters, we have the danglers, we have that really neat floor graphic. All of this can be provided into stores to help gain some of that awareness around the brand. This is a brand where people wouldn't even know this was private label, but it's significantly cheaper than any of their national brand counterparts. Some additional Paws marketing material. As you can see, we have the illustrations that go all the way across the brand. show, we have our puppy pad floor displays. These are in the process of getting redesigned, and we have them out and available for you to pick up for the holidays or for early next year. So puppy pads is one of our biggest growth trends. In fact, what's funny about puppy pads, people buy them for their kids. So they'll pick up puppy pads and they'll put them in the crib. They'll use them for incontinence purposes as well. It's very interesting how quickly people utilize puppy pads. In addition to that, we've also seen with puppy pads is that in urban areas, people actually will cover their floors with them in their kitchen and leave their dogs in there all day, and then come home at night and pick them up. So people go through puppy pads like crazy. So the more we have, we came out with 100 count in the past year, and that's been flying off the shelf because the larger pack sizes are really where it's at with puppy pads because it's very easy to run out. They're not just for training anymore. So that's Paws. And so those were our two big, brand discussions in terms of what you can do in private label branding to really get the consumer to want to be in your store and be picking up all of that private brand product, but not even realize they're picking up private brand product. Other displays we have available, I've been asked to share. We have, perfect for the holidays, we have coffee filters and baking cups. So these are also out on the floor for you to see. We have some of our rubber gloves, as you can see in the rubber gloves. We have all of the new packaging. And actually we do on the baking cups as well, so all consistent across. And then we have the CFL light bulbs. And so if you wanted to see an example of what electrics looks like, that's it. We'll be reviewing this at the end of the year, and this is going to be transitioning over to domestics next year. So that's general merchandise. And really what I want to leave you with about general merchandise, because as I said at the beginning, we're kind of the stepchildren. In grocery stores, we're not food, so we're not really necessarily what the consumer came in to buy. What I really want to impress upon you is that we need to be marketing it, putting it all over the store, promoting it, so that you can increase your register rings, you can pick up that extra margin, so you can fund your lower food prices. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Tony to talk to you about the HBC side. Tony.
All right, thanks again, Laurie. So, like I was talking earlier about such a great time to be working in private label and the great results we've seen, HBC's experienced that same thing. We're on 5 years of continued growth. And growth in each of those 5 years for private brand has outpaced the national brand. So we're growing faster than the rest of our categories growing. And we're growing in both dollars and units. We're getting to that point where for many retailers, their private label HBC program can account for 20% of their unit sales. Again, that's so important because for those same retailers, that 20% of unit sales can drive 50% of the margin in the categories. Now, there are 3 factors, I think, that have really contributed to the growth that we've had. The first has been the economy. When consumers have had less money to invest in the products that they need and use every day, they've been more willing to try store brand. The barriers to trial have dropped, and we've taken advantage of those. I think all of us have taken advantage of the opportunities the economy's had to provide better, more cost-effective solutions for our customers. Another element that's really benefited HBC has been some of our friends in the branded side of the business. So in the last 4 years, there have been a lot of recalls. A lot of companies making big, famous brands that for decades have touted their products. They've really experienced some tough times, and we have really taken advantage of those. With Tylenol in particular, Tylenol, before they had their first recall, had about a 70% share of all acetaminophen products sold at retail. Today, Tylenol has about a 30% share of all the acetaminophen sold at retail. So it's actually flipped. Why that's so great for us is because every time a retailer sells a private brand Tylenol equivalent product, they make more than 5 times the profit that they do if they were selling the branded item. So it's so important for the retailer to be able to sell that. And when we see that switch in share between the brand and the store brand, we see how much profit that's bringing to the retailers. The other big factor I think that's helped support store brand and help us achieve multiple years of record growth has been in the way that retailers are marketing their store brands and how we think about the store brands. And in fact, if we were talking 5 years ago, we'd be talking about private label. And now we really think about these as being own brands, or really brands just like national brands. They're just not nationally advertised and nationally distributed. They're retailers' own brands, but they're brands nonetheless. We see the way that they're packaged, the way that they're merchandised, the way that they're supported, and that has gone a long way to helping consumers increase their confidence and trust in the efficacy of those store brand items. We're now offering brands, own brands, with personality, with character, with a reason for being, with positioning, to stand for something for the consumers. And that's such a great win-win. You know, the beautiful thing about store brands is that win-win phenomenon that occurs with store brands. So the consumer, every time they come into the store and we help them choose the store brand, they're saving 30%. Every time they make that choice, the retailer's typically making more than twice the profit on that sale. It is truly a win-win. It is good for everybody when we sell store brand. So what do we do to continue that store brand growth? How are we going to continue in the future now that Tylenol's coming back in the market? Now that the competition's increasing, now that the economy's starting to get better, what do we do to continue that store brand growth, which is so important to us? Well, one of the things I like to do is think about what drives that consumer. What drives them to the store brand? And there's really a couple things. When the consumers look at the brands in the store, they look at it from a rational perspective. They understand that in HBC, many of our products have exactly the same ingredients as the national brands do. They believe that they're manufactured with the same processes and under the supervision of the FDA, which they are. They understand that they are just as good for you and perform just as well as the brand, and they know that. And in fact, a good number of consumers feel smart because they know that. They feel like they're really being a educated consumer because they're buying store brands and they're kind of in the know. And so that's the rational side of that shopper, thinking, yep, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to save some money and get just as good a product. And there's about 25% of the shoppers who fall in that category day in, day out. Every day, they're buying store brand. That's their first choice, and they feel smart because they make that first choice. Then there's also an element in the shopper's mind that's more emotional, and that's where the brands really capitalize on that. They really pull at those emotional heartstrings. And that is a little harder for us to combat. We see that particularly in HBC, where consumers are looking for products for their kids. You know, there's an emotional element to that purchase for something for your kids. There's sometimes an emotional element in the purchase of products where the consumer feels like they're maybe judged for those. So a great example of that might be buying liquid hand soap to sit on the counter in your bathroom. You know, people don't buy store brand as much as they should because they're afraid somebody might look at the soap that they have in their bathroom and think, gee, why are they buying Topco brand? Why aren't they buying Dial, or why aren't they buying soft soap? And so sometimes consumers will let those emotions play into their purchase decision. And there are about 20% of shoppers who only buy national brands. But you know what that leaves us? That leaves us 55% of those people that switch. They sometimes buy national brands, they sometimes buy store brands. Those are the people that if we can help reach the emotional side of their purchase thinking, that we can really help continue to increase our store brand sales. And so that's one of the things we think about is how are we going to attract a little more of the emotional aspect of the purchase decision to our store brands. Well, one of the ways we can do that is to look at what some of the national brands do. National brands are reaching into the store, that moment of truth, and trying to reach our consumers there. And you know, we talked earlier about 70% of customers are responding to end caps. So here's a great example where a big brand comes into a store at that moment of truth, claims that space, and puts up a great vehicle where they know 70% of the shoppers are going to respond. And they're not just selling products. They're selling information. They're selling the emotion. They've got the humor behind their brand going on there. They've got the efficacy behind their brand going on there. They're building all kinds of brand equity. So it's not just the sale that's occurring, but it's the brand equity that they're building by merchandising like that. They're building brand awareness. They're attracting consumers. What we want to do is do that same thing with our store brands. We want to think of our store brands first. When we have that limited space in our moment of truth, we want to make sure that store brands is where we think first. We want to utilize those same types of elements to educate consumers, to create brand awareness with those consumers, to create impulse sales. These are some examples of how retailers are actually utilizing that space in their store at that moment of truth to do the same types of things with their store brand that brand companies do for their brands in the stores. They're communicating value. They give the consumer a reason to purchase. Now, why that's so important for those display activities is we've actually been able to measure the impact of different types of vehicles. So what this chart shows is what the impact on your sales are for various types of promotional events. So when you have any type of price reduction, you'll typically increase your sales across OTC categories by at least 20%. If you do any type of feature event, you'll increase your sales by 25%. Any type of display, any secondary placement can increase your store brand HPC sales by over 30%. And the great thing is when you utilize a feature and a display together, you get nearly a 50% increase in the sales for those products. Brands know that too. This is a great example of how the brands are providing displays. We're seeing great examples of that here at the show. Brands use these displays to create incremental sales, drive brand awareness, communicate brand messaging to the consumers, and create brand loyalty. What we want to do is make sure that we're utilizing those store brand displays to do that exact same thing. And what's really important to think about is if you want your share in your private label HPC program to hit that 25%, it's sometimes helpful to think about the number of events that you're running in that same kind of ratio. So, simply stated, if you want to have a 25% share, you should be promoting your brand 25% of the time. So I always encourage people to think about that as you're looking at your displays and what you're utilizing your floor space for. Think about how much you're supporting your own brand. Now, there's a lot of great displays here at the show, and I really want to talk about a few that I think are really an outstanding opportunity to increase store brand share and sales. Now, there's some themes around some of the displays that you'll see out there. And the first is having displays that are offering bonus or offering a value added. One of the best displays, and I encourage everybody to look at it, is there's an omeprazole display that is a 28 count omeprazole with 14 free. And why that's so important is omeprazole is an item that we didn't have in private label 5 years ago. And today, for most any retailer, I bet you it's your number one or number two item. It is so important to all that we do in private label that that's kind of illustrating how we're moving forward in private label OTCs in the future. Is how do we launch more items like omeprazole, and how do we support them so they achieve that kind of share? Omeprazole has over a 50% share, and probably does in most of your stores. Over half the Prilosec products that are purchased are store brand omeprazole or Topco. So this represents a great opportunity to offer your customer 14 free tablets or a 33% free package. And that communicates so much value to the consumer. And it also, there's a little bit of efficacy that travels along with those types of events. Those are just the types of events that the brands build their equity on. And when you do those kind of events and support those kind of events with your store brand, you're giving the consumer added value and a reason to purchase the products. And you're also helping to give them that little bit of additional equity in the brand because they see the way that you're marketing it. There are several other high-value bonus packs, twin packs, special packs, where you can actually offer your customers extra value. There's at least a half a dozen to choose from. I encourage you to seek those out. I think those are a great tool to use to help drive increased sales and efficacy. Another great thing that we are really increasing our activity on in HPC is providing IRC offers. So that's actually giving an incentive to purchase that product to the consumer at the point of purchase. So you're going to see, again, about a half a dozen offers here at the show where we've actually got an IRC right on the front of the package. The consumer can take off and redeem right there in the store, right on that purchase. That is such a brand building, national brand developed marketing strategy. And when you deploy that on your own brand, you create so much opportunity for incremental sale, and you create a real impression on the consumer behind the value of your brand. There's a half a dozen of those IRCs programs that are in the show, and I encourage you to seek those out too. I think those are a great way to offer high value offers to consumers. Now, another big feature of this show are the allergy displays, and there's a wide assortment of allergy displays available. Allergy season is a great opportunity to sell store brand. Across most of the OTC categories, the private label share is over 30%, and probably is for most of you. That's where you see the big share in private label. HBC is on the H side of the business, the healthcare. So that's where there's some big share in those categories. Allergy represents a great opportunity to reach your customers, and secondary placement is really critical. You know, there's about half of the shoppers who buy allergy that are chronic allergy shoppers. They are people that take a non-sedating antihistamine like Claritin or Zyrtec. They're taking that product all the time. They're buying it every day. What these displays do for those customers, it helps them see that you've got them in your store. They may not be walking down your aisle thinking about buying those products. They buy them when they need them, and they may be buying them at a mass merchant. When you get a secondary placement that they come across as they're in the store, you have a great opportunity to show the consumer that's buying those products every day that you have a great value alternative to the product that they're buying every day. Also equally important is 50% of those allergy sales, those are occurring from folks that have seasonal allergies. They're just now experiencing allergies right now. And so the opportunity for you to have secondary placement in the store, which helps highlight those products for them, but also gets that extra inventory into the store during the peak season, is invaluable. And there's a couple of great displays to look at for allergy. In fact, I think there are 7 total displays that will help you reach your allergy consumers in the show. Also, sun care. There's about 6 sun care displays featured in the show, and sun care is such a great opportunity for secondary placement. It's so important because for such a seasonal item, there's just not enough shelf space to hold what you need during the season. And the thing that I encourage you to think of when you think of sun care, because there are, in addition to our 6 great top care displays, I know there are some lovely copper tone displays and other things out there that are very important to the business. But boy, every time I looked at a copper tone display that I put in the store, I would be thinking to myself, is there a display that goes along with that that's private brand, that I'm driving home brand? So there are things like women's disposable shavers that have an IRC on the package. And I'd be thinking, boy, if I had a copper tone display, I'd be making sure I had a top care shaver display, or maybe a cotton display. You know, as people are starting to do more, they do their toenails more, they're changing nail polish more in the summer. That's the perfect time to cross-merchandise these impulse top care products with your great branded displays. There's a great assortment of those summer sun care displays here at the show too. The one last group of displays I want to mention really ties back into McNeil we were talking about earlier. Tylenol is coming back into the market. Tylenol has meant, or I should say the lack of Tylenol has meant so much to private label in the last 4 or 5 years. We've generated so much profit because the consumers that use acetaminophen have only had store brand as an alternative. Every time they're buying that top care product, retailers make 5 or 6 times more profit than they do when they sell the Tylenol product. You know, the other really important thing, the important benefit that we've had in this is we did a study that showed that while Tylenol was experiencing their problems and not at retail, retailers' return on investment on their analgesics departments increased by 17%. And the reason is because that Tylenol package costs, for 100 pound Tylenol, costs between $8 and $9. You know, by the way, it probably sells for $9 or $10. The top care product costs $2, sells for $6, $7. The consumer, again, saving 30%. Retailers making a lot more money. But the return on investment on what's sitting on the shelf was so much lower that it brought so much more productivity to that category. So we don't want to forget that. Tylenol's coming back, and I'm glad that they'll be back in the market, and good for them. What we don't want to do is get back all the share and dollars and profit and productivity that we've gained in the last 5 years. We've shown, and the consumers have tried our Top Care products. 85% of them that try it stick with it. So we don't want to let Tylenol take them back. So there are some great opportunities here at the show for you to consider to help maintain your private label share and sales during the time McNeil's coming back, which is going to start. It's starting now. I saw 2 weeks ago in the Racket Parade magazine, they've got features. We're starting to see some advertising on TV. They're going to do a lot of that emotional, heartstrings, doctor recommended stuff's all coming back now. So what we want to do is make sure we've got a great story for consumers when they come into the stores. So there are some displays here that feature these great twin packs. You know, where these are ideal is where McNeil's coming back into the market, and you can get these value-added displays out, these secondary placement that consumers encounter in other places in the store that offer them a reason to buy. They offer them an extra value. That presents a great opportunity for us to protect the share and the margin that we gained while McNeil's been off the market. In total, I think there are 63 great promotional events for you to choose from here at the show. It's an outstanding assortment of displays that will all help not only drive incremental sales and profit, but they'll also help build your consumer's impression of the Top Care brand, of your brand. Now, some best practices to utilize at shelf. These are some examples of some shelf shots, and I know they're kind of hard to see. Here's a great shot that illustrates that return on investment. So here's the analgesic section. Filled up with acetaminophen is just all cost about 1/3 of what the branded product did. This is also a section that shows the importance of signage. Remember we were talking earlier about how 60% of the consumers respond to signage? They want information. They're trying to make a decision. They're trying to make it in less than 3 seconds, so they want information. The first thing they want to know is this item the same as the brand? Once they can make that comparison, the next thing they want to confirm, because they understand store brand means cost less, so they want to confirm that. So they compare and save, understanding here's my value item that compares exactly with that brand. That's kind of the key to closing that sale. But the real opportunity too at retail is when you can tell the consumers about the quality of the brand, about the efficacy of the brand. If you can reach them with some information that appeals to them emotionally, you have a great opportunity to help build the brand overall. And they take that impression with them as they identify other items in the store in that brand. So utilizing signage where you have signage available that talks about the brand, that talks about the quality, that talks about the FDA approval, the types of signage you see on the header cards on the displays that talk about the products all meet the same requirements, the FDA requirements. Utilizing that in the store, whether it's on the displays or on the shelf, is important to reaching that consumer emotionally. Here's another example of great use in store. You see a store like this and you see store brand is value. Store brand, there's a reason to purchase. It's easy to identify. In 3 seconds, a consumer can decide what to do. Here's a great example of a vitamin section where they're actually promoting their vitamins just like the brands. You know, brands frequently are promoted at a buy one, get one free now. Treating your store brand the same way and promoting that way really helps reach your consumers the way that we've trained them to buy vitamins. So it's important to think about treating our own brand the way that we treat our national brands. So kind of to summarize, in maximizing the profit that we're going to generate from our store brands, we want to be sure to claim that in-store moment of truth. We want to try to appeal emotionally to the customers. We want to connect with them. So it's not just price anymore. It's also the efficacy. It's also, we're contributing to saving you money. We're really trying to help the customer. We want Top Care to be their first choice. We want that chance to save 30% to be the first choice they get when they're making their purchase decision. 71% of those shoppers are responding to the shelf. They're making their decision right then. We don't want to let any of them go. We want to make sure that decision is easy and it's a smart one. They feel good about it. We want to make sure to display Top Care. We want to promote all of our store brands. Displaying all of your store brands is what's going to drive that incremental sales. 70% of consumers respond to that. They're looking for those displays. They respond to them, whether it's branded or whether it's store branded. And we want to think about continuing to market store brand like we do national brands. We want to think about treating them with the same care that the CPG companies treat their brands. We do all those things, and we'll continue to see our store brand grow in future years. Do you have any questions? Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the chance to be able to talk to you.